Welcome back in, you guys, to One Piece, chapter 1171, the post-game video. Just in case this is your first time tuning into one of these, how this works is that we like to revisit the chapter after a couple days have passed. We like to go through the comment section and see what everybody is talking about, theorizing about, and having fun with. So, with that being said, let's rip off the band-aid and hop right into it with the top comment that says, "Hilarious how much Shanks seems to hate his father, but Doflamingo would genuinely kill to have Garling as a father." Yeah, it's pretty funny. You know, it reminds you of that one saying that Confucius said all the time back in East Asia. He said, "One man's trash is another man's treasure." And genuinely, Doflamingo would love Garling. Garling would love Doflamingo. Kind of unfortunate how that happened. And I still grieve every day thinking about what we could have gotten if the Holy Land simply let Doflamingo back. Dude, Doflamingo would have been one of their strongest soldiers. You know how nowadays we're talking about, oh, the God Knights don't have Conqueror's Haki. Do they even have it? Minus the gorosei. Brother, Doflamingo has Conqueror's Haki. By the time Doflamingo went up to the Holy Land, by that age, at the age of 10, he already unlocked it. Why not let him in? And plus, Doflamingo knows about the sacred treasure of the Holy Land, and he's using that to manipulate the news. He's bending the celestial dragons over and spanking them with that information. Why not just let him in? Dude, Doflamingo has done more harm than good for the celestial dragons by simply not letting a little kid back in. And the thing is that the Don Quixotes were still up there. Mjolnir, and I'm assuming other Don Quixote members were up there. Let him live with his uncle. They really let the sins of the father fall on the child. And the father didn't even sin that much. Homing was just an idiot. You know, Homing was like, hey, please, guys, I know now that we don't belong here. Let us back in. And they said, no. I wonder, will we ever meet the gorosei member, the God Knight, who didn't let Doflamingo back in? Because if so, I could genuinely see a Doflamingo God Knight matchup in the future. For two main reasons. One, Doflamingo is a Conqueror's Haki user, so he can genuinely damage the God Knights if he just locks in and masters it. And two, you gotta remember, his whole dream is to bring the celestial dragons down from their perch. They created their own worst enemy. They really did. This says, Garling, of all people being a good father, then most of the dads in One Piece is hilarious. Yeah, you know, people have said, oh, but he killed the wife. Yes, he's not a great husband, but he is a good dad. And somebody brought this up the other day, and it made me think about it for a little bit. But they were like, okay, if Shanks was weak, if Shanks wasn't a fighter, would Garling still love him? I think so. I mean, granted, you know, look at the other God Knights, right? It's not like they're, you know, master-class swordsmen or master-class opponents. So yeah, even if Shanks wasn't, like, top tier, I do think Garling would still enjoy his son. This says, I love the fact that Mu doesn't even know what's in Elbaph. Yeah, he's left in the dark, brother. And to an extent, we are as well. We still don't know what the hell is up with the Heaven Realm. So yeah, you know, Elbaph is a complete mystery. And I can't wait till Emu sees what Loki's true form actually is. Because I guarantee we are going to be getting a lot of Emu flashbacks. All the PTSD is going to come running through him between Sun God Nika and whatever Loki's devil fruit actually is. This comment says, Garling hitting the Mr. Beast thumbnail. Yeah, it was a little bit goofy. I remember I was like, okay, what would it look like if, you know, we expanded the image and he's just got his hands out right like this? Oh, God. And the funniest part is that he's doing that to a grown Shanks. Because by the time Shanks goes to the Holy Land, he's like damn near 20 years old, if not a little bit older. And it's like, dang, imagine doing that to like a grown kid. Like, hey, whatever you want, son, it's yours. It's like, all right, Garling. That's a little bit too much, but I understand it, right? He has not been with this kid for all those years. Yes, he has a lot of lost time to make up for. So the thing with Garling, though, is that I wonder if we'll ever get the flashback of when Shanks officially left the Holy Land. Because at some point in time, Shanks never returns. Or if he does return, he says his goodbye. So I would love to see Garling's reaction to that. Is he sad? Is he upset? Disappointed? What's going through one of the best dads' mind right there? This says, hey, yo, what did I say? 23:35, 4 Gooners in one panel. So Shanks did find his role into it, just like Gabon said. He stopped Loki from blindly rampaging, made the appearance of Nika happen, and now is trying to stop Blackbeard. And somehow these are all related to defeating Emu. Yeah, you know, Shanks really is pushing the plot forward in a lot of instances. And I just wonder, man, what does Oda have in store for this guy? You know, when it comes to Shanks, for the longest time, ever since Shanks was first introduced, and then Blackbeard was introduced, a lot of people had a feeling that Shanks was going to die by the end of the series. I wonder what the poll results would be if I held that. I might do that later. Let me just write that down real quick. Would Shanks die by the end of series? So in my personal opinion, I can't see Shanks surviving until the end of the series. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, and that's totally fine. I wouldn't hate it if Shanks lived. But right now, I just always think back to chapter 1, where Shanks initially gave the straw hat to Luffy. He said, hey, when you become a great pirate, I'll take the hat back. You know, return the hat to me when you're that guy. And it's like, okay, I can't see Luffy giving up the hat. I think Luffy would want to give it up, but I just can't imagine it. Because the hat has been going through cycles, right? Roger had it, then Shanks had it, and now Luffy has it. Hell, Joy Boy had a hat too, which probably got passed down. Maybe this is the same hat that Joy Boy had even. And that's the thing. I feel like Luffy, by the end of the series, maybe in Two Piece, maybe in an epilogue, I could easily see Luffy giving his hat up to the next generation as well. Kind of like all the people before him. And if that's the case, then that straw hat cannot go back to Shanks. I think we will have that moment where Luffy finally meets Shanks and they bond a little bit as adults. But I can't see Luffy giving it up. I feel like something's gonna stop it. Somebody might kill Shanks in the process, and then Shanks gives the hat back to Luffy. I just don't think Luffy's ever gonna lose that straw hat epithet until he becomes king of the pirates. But we'll see, right? Maybe Shanks just simply says, hey, you earned it, son. You know, keep the straw hat. It's yours now. Maybe that's it, but we'll see. And then, of course, as far as characters that could kill Shanks, I feel like there's a plethora between Emu, Blackbeard, maybe even Shamrock. I feel like there's characters out there who could genuinely put Shanks down. And I know people are going to say, whoa, Shamrock, he's not that strong. Well, it's more of like an emotional battle, right? Maybe Shanks doesn't want to kill his brother. We don't really know how Shanks feels about Shamrock right now. So anything's possible, man. How? Ace and Luffy gave Sabo the what? He can't keep getting away with these. Okay, I said that they gave Sabo the D, and that is what happened. It's just that the D also stands for something sexual, right? It's not my fault. If anything, you guys should be blaming Oda for calling it the D. That's not my fault, guys. It's not my fault. It's what happened. It happened over a campfire. They essentially spit roasted him. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Speaking of sexual innuendos, though, let's switch up the conversation and make this more relevant. Loki. I think there's a good chance that Loki's devil fruit, whatever it is, it's going to be a sexual joke. Sigh, what? Huh? What the hell are you talking about? I know. Hold up, guys. Wait a minute. So in Elbaph, in Japanese, there's kind of been a theme going on, at least with the 2 devil fruits we've seen already, where there's kind of like a sexual undertone with some of their names. The first example of this would be Biblo. Of course, the devil fruit isn't confirmed yet, but Vegapunk, Lilith, speculated that the owl in the owl library might have the Iku Iku no Mi, the grow fruit. And of course, Iku also means come in Japanese. And if you watch, Japanese adult videos, when they're finishing, they say Iku Iku, like it's a thing, it's a thing. So we have that with Biblo. And then, a couple chapters back, we were introduced to Ragnar's true form. He is a hammer squirrel. What model is he? We don't really know yet, right? Again, kind of like Biblo, up in the air at this moment. But squirrel in Japanese, plus combined with the way Ragnar laughs, it actually, in Japanese, is a play on words of clitoris. I first learned about all of this through a popular Japanese YouTuber known as Dawn and Dusk, Stussy-sama over on Twitter. They tweeted about this, and I was like, wait, they're so right. Biblo is sex-related. Ragnar is sex-related. I think there is a high chance that whatever Loki is, it's going to be a play on words on something sexual. Obviously, I don't know Japanese, so I can't like really piece together what it could or could not be. But yes, do not be shocked when Loki's devil fruit is serious. But if you break down the name, it's going to be something goofy. And that does sound like an Oda thing, right? If you guys have ever read the SPSs, half the questions are very canon, very relevant to the story. And then as far as the other half of the SPS, it's just Oda being a gooner. He's just another one of us. He's another one of the boys. So yeah, keep that in mind. Look forward to that. It's probably gonna happen. Ace, crying about daddy issues is pretty sad when you compare it to the Shanks situation. Yeah, I mean, Ace was, crumbling underneath all the pressure of having the Pirate King as his dad. Granted, nobody knew about that except for him and the boys. Whereas Shanks, it's like, okay, wait a minute. I think a lot of people in the world have heard about the Garlings. It kind of sounds like the God Knights are celebrities to an extent too. And it reminds me of Egghead Island, where one Marine was like, hey, I have pictures of Saint Saturn on the wall. It's like, wait, what? The gorosei, God Knights, all these guys, they're just public info. Like, anybody can really learn about them if you just pick up a book and read. It's crazy. It's crazy. Imagine if Loki and Luffy use a combination attack this arc. Ragnir plus Red Rock equals Ragnarok. Ooh, wait a minute. Wait, you're kind of cooking. That's not bad. Ragnarok, that has been an attack before, though. If I recall correctly, Kaido had an attack called Ragnarok. But then again, people are saying Kaido and Loki look pretty damn similar. Dude, both guys, both shirtless, both have feathered purple capes. I don't know, both have horns. It's like, wait a minute. I remember back when we first got to Elbaph, a lot of people saw King Harold and they said, yo, that looks like Kaido, right? Like, it literally looks like Kaido if he was just bald. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something there. As far as the combination attack goes, making Ragnarok, I like it. Especially because, this is like the end of the world here in Norse mythology, so I am down for it, brother. This says, we do see Shanks grabbing his arm stump a few times, like when he told Whitebeard the bet on the future. I doubt Oda had thought about the Mark of the Abyss back then, but it could work in retrospect, yes. When it comes to Oda planning things out, I think he does have a lot planned out, but as far as Shanks being that guy, as far as Shanks having the Mark of the Abyss there, I don't think that was ever planned. It kind of goes back to, a very early data book or interview where Oda said that the decision of cutting Shanks' arm off wasn't even his own. It was one of his editors to spice up the manga. And yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? You have a plot point that, is kind of up in the air. You could do more with it. You do more for it later. You don't have to have everything planned out in advance. And I think Oda does really well at that. I think that's why, in a lot of instances, Oda leaves us in the dark about situations. Like a great example would be Sengoku and Sudo. They are currently on their way somewhere. Are they going to Cross Guild? Are they going to Garp? Are they going somewhere else? We don't know. And I do wonder, it's like, wait, has Oda planned this out yet? Or is this something he's still waiting to make a decision on? And, if you're saying, oh, but Sai, he has everything planned out. He doesn't. Because at the end of Wano, Oda took a month-long break, and he verbatim said it was to finalize and flesh out some plot points in the upcoming arcs. So it's like, yeah, Oda is still changing up the story whenever he can, just kind of based on like what he thinks is better at the moment. And I think that's pretty cool, right? There's just so many plot points that are still so ambiguous. Oda could just retroactively go back and change it by adding a cool future plot point like the Abyss Mark. Check out chapter 1152. Loki jumped from the sky to land on Ara's castle when Harold summons him in Yarul, literally right before he ate the fruit and got the new hammer. Meaning Loki could, quote, fly with his old hammer also. That is true. I know exactly what you're talking about. We see Loki coming in and just jumping, and the guards are like all shocked by Loki's appearance. And I still wonder, even though Loki has mad hops, could he realistically jump from the underworld all the way up to the sun realm? Because over here, it's like, we don't see where Loki starts. We just see where he ends up. So like, hell, the intro of this video, right? Let me do it again. That's what Loki did right there. But the thing is that we don't know where Loki started from. You guys don't know where I started from. You could say I started from 50 feet away because you didn't see it. That's kind of the thing with Loki, right? So Loki jumping, impressive. I bet he does have mad hops. But jumping from the underworld all the way up to the sun realm seems kind of crazy to me. But we'll see, right? We'll see. And the thing is that early translations said that Loki could fly. And then, of course, Viz, the official, said that he could fly as well. Only TCB went with jump, and of course, I don't know Japanese, so maybe jump and fly are used interchangeably based on the context, so maybe that's why it's really hazy. But yeah, you know, I am leaning more towards fly than jump, but we'll see. And that's mainly because the Sun Realm is super high up too. Like when you zoom out of Elbaph, you can't even see Loki, right? They got a lift to take him up. I'd rather believe that Loki is gonna climb the tree rather than jump. Jumping just seems so extreme. I don't know. Shanks grabbed his arm like Nami did with the R-long tattoo. You are right, brother. And hey, personal theory of mine, but I am a believer that Nami is of celestial dragon descent. But of course, that is just a theory for now. Also, remember, Shanks beat Loki with one arm. His theorized less dominant arm. This is all a Mihawk upscale, yeah? I mean, you're not wrong. You know, jokes aside about the Mihawk upscale, I do agree that if Shanks beat Loki with just one arm, that is absurd. The thing is though, right? I feel like if I held the poll today, like who wins current day, Shanks or Loki, I do think a majority of people will vote on Shanks. That's just kind of how he is. But it's just absurd seeing where they were 14 years ago. But my cope is that Shanks simply locked in after King Harold died. He didn't want anybody else to die afterwards. So Shanks really locked in and started super training. That is my headcanon right now. Of course, there's other routes where maybe they had a Davy back fight. That's how Shanks beat him. Maybe the crew of Shanks gathered together and then beat him. And that's not absurd, right? We heard that Ben Beckman was the one who beat Kid and took off his arm. So it's like, yeah, like maybe that's it. Maybe Shanks didn't even do anything. We will see about that. Hopefully we get this flashback. I still think we will by the end of Elbaph. Because Luffy is interested in the Shanks lore. Luffy knows that Shanks put Loki there in the first place. The only reason we didn't get this flashback right away is one, because I bet Oda loves to tease us, and two, because there's a lot of things going down in Elbaph as we speak. Like, I can't imagine Luffy saying, hey, Loki, before we save Elbaph and, you know, save the kids and beat Emu, tell me about the day you were captured. I bet he'd be like, hey, Luffy, can this wait till later? Like, you know, I hear the screamings of the innocents upstairs. And then Hiruden's probably the same way. They only had time for this one small King Harold flashback. And of course, I think this does further reiterate that we did not hear the Rocks flashback. Luffy doesn't know about Rocks Nizabek. He doesn't know about God Valley. He only knows about that one fateful day. So this comment says, so that's how Emu felt Joy Boy's hockey and sent the gorosei back to the Holy Land immediately. Ooh, that could be it. No, you're right, yeah. We don't exactly know what went down here. We saw that Joy Boy's hockey reverted the gorosei back from their yokai forms to their human forms. But maybe Emu did forcefully pull the plug. It wasn't that the gorosei were sent home or, you know, teleported back home. It was Emu who recalled them. He said, wait a minute, I can't lose any of you guys. Get back here right away. And then, of course, the reason Saturn didn't get brought back is because his Abyss Circle was linked to the Navy ship. I could see that being the case. And yeah, that is pretty smart. The minute you see one of your vessels potentially dying, you yank the chain, you bring him back home, so that one, you don't take damage, and two, you don't lose a decent soldier. I imagine Scopper told Sanji something like, I will personally help you unlock your Conqueror's hockey. Could be the case. Maybe Scopper has more insight as to how Sanji's Conqueror hockey works because they're both emissaries of love. That wouldn't be awful. This says, this could actually be used to support the Ratatoskr fruit theory, since it's the squirrel that runs up and down the world tree. It could access abilities from every realm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the squirrel goes up and down the tree. That's how Loki gets to the Sun Realm. He simply uses Ragnar's powers again. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Hopefully we do get the confirmation that the fruit is Ratatoskr or something else. Because we're still flying blind, right? Earlier I mentioned Ragdir and Biblo. Those two fruits are just theorized for now. It's up in the air. We don't really know what's happening with either one of those animals. Shanks still grabs his arm, but what made him despair now, especially after Luffy, like when Whitebeard asked him about the arm, he grabbed his arm and smiled. Okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. He didn't like grabbing his arm in the past, but now he grabs his arm out of joy boy. This says, I think Shanks meant to be faster in the sense of warning Harold not to do the contract. Yes, and I stand by what I said. I do think that no matter what Shanks would have told Harold, Harold still would have gotten the contract done. No matter how fast Shanks actually was, even if Shanks met Harold day one and said, hey, Harold, don't even come up to the Holy Land, Harold wouldn't listen to him. You know, Harold double, tripled down on this pathway ever since Rox died, ever since Ida died, ever since the very beginning. I do not think, even if Shanks said, hey, the world government doesn't have your best interest in mind, hey, Emu's going to control you, I still feel like Harold would have done it anyways, just to play it out, just to maybe help Elbaph in the future. You know, I don't think there was anything stopping Harold at that point. He's too far gone. This says Shanks couldn't even stop Harold. How the freak did he beat Loki? Upscale, man. He locked in. It's like 3D2Y, you know? Luffy couldn't beat so many people pre-time skip, and then post-time skip, very different Luffy. I think that's what happened to Shanks. I think he simply just got stronger. And hell, you know, think about Shanks today. Could he beat Loki? I feel like a majority of people would vote yes. Okay, that's going to be another question, actually. Yeah, that's another question. Shanks versus Loki, current day. Okay, I'm polling that after this video, damn it. This comment says, imagine a Abyssal Mark Shanks with both arms that uses emu powers to teleport, spamming godlike hockey attacks like Divine Departure plus more. Yeah, it'd be broken, man. It would be broken. And plus, with how great Shanks is, and plus because of his father, if Shanks became evil fully, he probably would have ended up as a gorosei member, and he would have gotten a yokai form. So yeah, Shanks, man, he's crazy. But you could also argue that losing all of that made him stronger too because he sought power from a different route. I wish we got like a what if. I think One Piece would really benefit from what ifs. Just after the series is over, just what if Shanks stayed a God Knight? What if Shanks stayed a Celestial Dragon? That's why I would love a One Piece video game, dude. Go back to like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero back when that was great. That's what they did. In the game, you followed the main story, but every now and then, you get hit with the what if chapter, and it spirals all the way out to Gohan Black. If you remember that. That was like a popular theory back in the day. Like, oh, Goku Black and Zamasu? No. It's Gohan Black. And it's like, hey, that's what we got. Or was it Goten Black? It was one of those. But yeah, I would love it, dude. I say bring up the what ifs. Last comment, and then we'll get out of here. This says, interesting part of the chapter is how Luffy is so interested in seeing how Loki fights. It's been a while since he's been this interested in a potential crew member. Can this be a sign that Loki will be joining the crew, perhaps? I feel like Luffy will try again. He already extended the invitation once. I bet he's going to do it one more time by the end of Elbaph. But will Loki accept it? That's the main question. I feel like Loki might just be his own guy because he wants to go after the world. I could easily see him doing that. And then outside of that, how is he going to fit on the ship? You know, unless Loki can just fly easily, unless Loki can shapeshift into somebody smaller, him fitting on the Sunny is not possible. You know, he can't exactly, you know, sail with us per se, unless we have like a giant lifeboat or something. I'm sure Frankie could whip something up if need be, but I doubt it'd be anything comfortable for Loki. So I think that's the main thing, like how is he going to travel with us if he does join? So as far as whether or not I'd want Loki to join the crew, I'm pretty 50-50 on it. On one hand, I think it'd be really cool. I do like pirate crews like the Rocks Pirates, where it's just a bunch of powerhouses. They're all known for their strengths. But on the other end, I'm like, wait, logistically, how would he fit on the ship? But also, it would kind of ruin the Zoro-Sanji dynamic, where Zoro and Sanji, they've always been the undisputed second and third strongest, apart from Luffy. So it's like, yo, like, what are we doing here? Like, we bring Loki in, I feel like he'd mess that up. Of course, I don't know if that's a criteria when Oda brings in Nakama. And yeah, I doubt Luffy even thinks about that. But I just feel like we've been going with this for so long that we can't bring somebody in where it's like, wait a minute, Loki's a little bit too powerful, you know what I mean? Like I said, though, I think it'd be fun. But I don't think it's gonna happen, though. This says, no wonder no God Knights intervened when Herald and Rox destroyed the Holy Land. Those bums would have gotten Emu killed. Yeah, it makes you wonder, dude. Did Emu actually give out the order? Like, hey guys, don't go anywhere. You know, don't go outside. But then again, they also had admirals there too. So maybe that was another thing where they're like, hey, we'll just let the Marines handle this. Let's not waste our time. Or maybe they were on missions. There's a lot of ways we can cope about it. But yeah, Emu might have been like, hey, at least one of you guys go to like a different island for a little bit. I can't be vulnerable. With that being said though, guys, Let me know your thoughts on 1171 one last time down below. I'll catch you guys later. Of course, I'm holding a lot of polls here on this channel, so make sure to go over to those polls and drop your theories and votes down below. And we will be back sooner rather than later. You guys stay safe.